Of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to John. Glory to you, Lord Christ. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his face and said to him, Lord, if you had been here, my father would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came into the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, already there is a stench because he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked upward and said, Father, I thank you for having heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, Unbind him and let him go. Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts bring light. Amen. The souls of the righteous are in the hand of God. That's a great line. And I read that last week, and it inspired me to move to a place of mystery and wonder. Mystery and wonder. As we gather today, I invite you to enter the space of mystery and wonder. And I want to share a couple of stories, a reading and a couple of stories to help to get into this place. I have a textbook that I found online. It's called The Mythology of America's Seasonal Holidays. And this is the section about Halloween. And the author writes, Understanding the meaning of Halloween is made easier by the archetypal nature of the holidays. It is fair to say that virtually every ancient and modern culture has had some festival or rituals dealing with the dead, together with various troublesome or evil spirits from the supernatural world. Every ancient and modern culture does what we do today out on the streets. And what that says to me is this time of Halloween, All Saints, and Day of the Dead, and all, are not just our secondary religious experiences for us. We are hardwired down in our DNA to have this experience. And then the church puts over that experience All Saints and All Souls and these celebrations. But the foundation is in our DNA. It's foundational to all human beings, essentially, that have ever lived. In our country this week, I heard on NPR, we're going to spend $10 billion on Halloween. 10 billion with a B, $billion on Halloween. And that's somehow reflected in the sense that it's part of it's part of our nature, and we're responding that on a very deep level. And that is really mysterious. Now, Kathy and I had an experience in 2012, and you've had similar experiences, I think, and I'm going to tell you ours. And as I tell you ours, you may think of similar type experience where you've had a mystery that's led you to wonder. We were on sabbatical in the fall of 2012, and we did a month and a half in Ireland and Scotland studying Celtic spirituality and worship. And when we got through with that, we flew back to the East Coast and timed our visit. So we'd be in Washington, D.C. when our daughter-in-law, Deirdre, was going to have a baby. So our grandson was going to be born. So we ended up in a hospital in Georgetown in the maternity waiting room. And first time Kathy and I had ever been in a maternity waiting room before. She was also in another part of the hospital, and that was what we were used to. So this was odd for us to be in the maternity waiting room. And I'd been on sabbatical, so I had my laptop out and I was doing some writing and pulling some thoughts together. And there was a woman on the other side of the room, and I happened to look up and she said to me, "You certainly are involved in electronics." And I said, "Well, I'm doing some." I said, "Well, okay." So we began to talk for a while, and she said, "Well, where are you from?" And when I say Pacific Grove, that doesn't mean anything to folks. So I say, "We're from the Central Coast of California." And she said, "Oh, I'm from Pebble Beach." And I said, "Oh, we're from Pacific Grove." Oh, and she was there where her daughter was giving birth while our daughter-in-law was giving birth. And so we talked for a while longer. And I said, "Well, how long do you live there?" She says, "Oh, I've lived there 15, 20 years. I grew up in San Jose in Santa Clara County." And I said, "Oh, I grew up in Los Gatos in Santa Clara County." "Oh, how about that?" Oh. And I said, "Well, is that where you were born?" She said, "Yeah." And then I asked the question that people in our generation always ask, and we've asked it since first grade, I think. Were you a San Jose hospital baby or a Sears baby? Now, O'Connor Hospital was the other hospital in San Jose at the time, and it was on San Carlos Street. And it was there until the mid 50s when it moved over to another part of the town. The hospital building was torn down and a Sears store was built there. So you were either a Sears baby or a San Jose hospital baby. So she said, "Oh no, I'm a San Jose hospital baby." I said, "So am I." And "Well, who was your mother's OB?" She said, "Dr. Schufeld." Dr. Schufeld was my mother. Yeah. I said, "Well, when you were born?" She said, "April 25th, 1948. I said, "Oh, I was born April 22nd, 1948. Wow. We were together 64 years before then. We were together as newborns in the nursery at San Jose Hospital. And 64 years later, we would meet in the maternity waiting room in Georgetown. Now, that can't happen. It can't possibly happen, but it did. And you've had similar experiences, I'm sure. And what that experience does for me is it moves me into a place of mystery that can't happen, but then wonder that it does. It's wonder. It's a little peek. It's a little peek for me into another realm. It's another peek into another realm that surrounds us. Now, generally, when we're living, we're going straight ahead historically. We're today's Sunday, tomorrow's Monday. We're going ahead like that. But on this day, we turn around. Instead of looking forward, we look back to all those faces that are on the altar. And as Hebrews puts it, that great cloud of witnesses. Now, another mystery and wonder. All of us have two parents. All of us have 4 grandparents. We have 8 great-grandparents. And we probably didn't know those. We can figure out our parents, figure out our grandparents. 2 of my grandparents died before I was born. The other 2 I knew. The third great-grandparents, the great-great-great-grandparents, we have 32. When you get down to the 10th generation, we have 4,096 grandparents. 4,000. And so when we look at that great cloud of witnesses, just from a biological perspective, there are 4,096 great grandparents out there. If you take it to the 18th generation, we have 1,048,576 great grandparents. It brings us to that place of wonder and astonishment. And they're all in that great cloud of witnesses, over 1 million people. And that's just grandparents. That's not aunts and uncles and cousins. That's not dear friends. That's not folks that we knew in this building who are now part of that great cloud of witnesses. We stand on their shoulders, and we are part of their community, even if we don't see them. But I know they can, when we look through that get a peek into that next realm of being that comes to us and just in flashes, a flash in a maternity room in Washington, D.C., and other times that we've been tapped and seen. Oh, I wonder. I think of my grandfather, who is here. And it's a picture that I often look at. He's looking at a magazine. It's on the back is an ad for Remington rifles. He was a cowboy in the Oklahoma Territory, and he ended up in Los Gatos, and he was the spinach king of Santa Clara Valley. That was the highlight in the San Jose paper where he died, the spinach king of Santa Clara Valley. But what he really loved was getting on a horse and doing the back trails in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And he'd go with his rifle and his fishing gear, and he'd go out for a couple of days and hunt and fish. And that's what he really loved. And when I look at these Santa Cruz Mountains, I've never met Richard B. the first, that's Junior, I'm the third. I've never met him, but I can almost sense his presence when I go up these roads. Now, the other thing I do with these static pictures, and it occurred to me a few years ago when I was looking at another picture. When you just see a picture, it's a static thing. It's not a video, it's there. And what I do is I look at that picture and then I imagine him after the picture is taken. What does he do? Well, he got out of the chair and he went outside, or he went into the kitchen, or he had something to eat. And what happened before the picture? Well, he was out doing something and ended up in this chair, and there's the picture. And it helps me to, as I look at that picture, kind of as an icon, to what happened before and what happened after. And what did he look like on his horse going up Mount Charlie Road? And becomes more present. And I can say, yeah, there is a great cloud of witnesses. Now, the next thing is I learned in kindergarten. And when you're by the slide in kindergarten, or you're lined up to get on the swings, or you're playing baseball and you're lined up to go to bat, and there's a little commotion, I don't want to get up here. And the yard duty person comes up and says, everyone gets a chance. Everyone gets a turn. And so as we look at these faces and remember folks that are dear to us, we're going to get a chance, and we call it death. We're going to get our turn to join them in that great cloud of witnesses. And in 50 years, folks will still gather here, and your pictures may be around that. And you too will gather with those who have gone before us and become that great cloud of witnesses. And somehow, in that sense of mystery leading into wonder, we will be present here. We know that at funerals, when you say, the person didn't really die, they're going to always be alive in your heart.
But what we're trying to get to is that basic place where we are hardwired, where we know that there is more to life than what presents us as we move this way. We can see it when we turn around and spread our arms and fall into that mystery and wonder.